Have you ever had that feeling? You look around and realize your world has just gotten quieter. The group chats are dead, the invitations aren't really coming in anymore, and your social circle feels like it's shrinking. It's a really unsettling feeling, right? But what if this isn't a loss? What if it's actually the beginning of one of the most important journeys you could ever take? Let's dive into what that journey looks like.
This is the big question we're getting into. We tend to rush to fill silence. We assume it's a void, some kind of sign that we've been rejected or we failed. But what if it's actually an invitation? What if it's a space that's been cleared out on purpose, just so you can finally hear something you've probably been ignoring for years, yourself?
This whole process, it almost never starts with a big fight or some dramatic exit. It's way more subtle than that. It's kind of like fog creeping into a room. You just start speaking a little less. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you start to realize most people aren't really listening, they're just waiting for their turn to talk. It's this slow shedding of a social mask you probably didn't even know you were wearing.
So this is usually how it happens. It all starts with these little acts of taking yourself back. You stop nervously jumping in to fill every pause in a conversation, and yeah, some people get really uncomfortable with that. You stop giving that polite laugh to jokes that kind of feel like tiny little weapons. And the whole dynamic just shifts. You simply state your boundaries without giving a whole long-winded explanation. You just stop watering down your truth to make other people comfortable. You're not being aggressive, you're just stopping the performance.
And this right here, this gets to the very heart of it. So many of us are cast in these roles we never even auditioned for, right? The helper, the fixer, the one who always keeps the peace. And look, these roles are useful, but mostly for other people. The second you decide to step off that stage and stop catering to their needs, well, the audience that showed up for that specific performance, they don't have a reason to stick around anymore. They just vanish.
And this is the part that really hurts. The first reaction, almost always, is to blame yourself. You start thinking, maybe I've gotten cold, or maybe I'm just expecting too much from people. It's this period of intense confusion where you take their absence as proof of your own failure. It's a really painful, lonely stage to be in.
But then, underneath all that noise and self-doubt, something else starts to stir. It's a voice you might not have heard since you were a kid. It's a voice that doesn't ask for permission, and it sure doesn't beg to be liked. It just knows. And it whispers that you're not becoming a problem, you're just remembering who you were before the world taught you to dim your own light so other people would accept you.
So this is a really crucial point, learning to tell the difference between two very different states. There's loneliness, that's that heavy, crushing feeling that says you're alone because you're unworthy. It's the pain of abandoning yourself. But then there's liberation, and that is something else entirely. It feels spacious, it feels clear. It says you're alone because you finally stopped performing. That's the peace you feel when you finally align with your true self.
And hey, this isn't just some feeling, it's a deep philosophical idea. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, he believed that to really think for yourself, to become a truly independent spirit, you have to first go through being cast out by the crowd. And not with some big dramatic fight, but with just indifference. Because really, nothing threatens the herd quite like an individual who doesn't need its approval anymore.
In this new solitude, you start having these powerful and, yeah, sometimes painful realizations. You see with total clarity how much of your energy was spent just making sure everyone else was comfortable. You start replaying all those moments where your honesty was called difficult or an attitude. You see how many so-called friendships were really just unspoken contracts. And maybe the biggest one of all, you realize just how often your silence was taken as a yes. This brings us to the real test. This in-between space, after the old life has kind of fallen away, but before the new one has really shown up, it's incredibly uncomfortable. The temptation to just run back to what's familiar, to put that mask back on, it's huge. The real challenge is to just stay put. Can you resist the urge to text those people who only loved the version of you that served them?
If you can pass that test, you start becoming what Nietzsche called the sovereign individual. Now, this isn't about being better than other people. Not at all. It's about being sovereign over yourself. It's about being someone who has stopped borrowing their sense of purpose and value from society or their friends because they have finally learned how to create it from their own core. And that's really the secret, isn't it? True power, true sovereignty, it doesn't come from getting more friends, more likes, more validation. It comes from needing less of it. When your sense of self-worth is generated from the inside, that frantic need for a round of applause from the outside world, it just fades away. You become unshakable.
So this brings us right back to that silence from the beginning. The silence you used to be afraid of is now your greatest strength. It's not an empty space, it's a sanctuary. It's the place where, finally free from the noise of everyone else's expectations, you can hear your own intuition, your own desires, your own truth with perfect clarity.
And that internal clarity, it leads to a massive shift in how you move through the world. The old question that used to play in a loop in your head, do they like me? It gets replaced by a much, much more powerful one. Do I feel alive here? The whole focus moves away from begging for external approval to cultivating your own internal resonance, a reverence for your own spirit. And here is the beautiful final stage of this whole journey. You are not destined to be alone forever. Once you are truly at home in your own solitude, new people start to show up. It's almost never a big crowd. It's usually just a few, but it's enough. And they don't arrive because you need them. They arrive because they resonate with the person you've actually become.
These new connections are just different. These people aren't looking for a fixer or a peacekeeper. They don't push your boundaries. They respect them because they have their own. The connection is built on mutual resonance, not mutual need. They are fellow travelers, people who have probably walked through their own silence too.
So if there's one single thing to take away from all of this, let it be this powerful thought. The people who faded away, they were often connected to the mask you wore, to the role you played, not to the real you. You didn't lose friends. You shed the illusions of friendships that were never really yours in the first place.
In the end, the whole journey comes full circle. That deafening silence, the one that used to feel like a punishment, like you were being exiled, you realize it's actually been transformed. It's the most peaceful sound in the world. It is the sound of your own presence. It's the sound of you, finally, after all this time, coming home to yourself.
And that leaves us with the final question, the one that only you can answer. Now that you've done all the hard work of finding your way back to you, now that you've heard your own voice in the quiet, are you going to honor it? Will you choose to stay home?